The flight to DNC was routine, except for the quiet bearded man in 12A wearing a tactical cap. Suddenly, the pilot announced a security escort, 2 F-35 fighter jets while passengers pressed against windows to snap photos. The man calmly dialed a number. Seconds later, the lead pilot's voice crackled over the frequency. "Iron Fist, is that you?" The passenger smiled faintly. "Affirmative. Just heading to DC, boys." A stunned pause followed. "Holy, it's really him." The squadron realized they weren't just escorting a plane. They were escorting the most decorated SEAL of the Iraq War. Where are you watching the story from? Let us know in the comments. If this journey of valor touched you, consider subscribing to Silent Veterans and help us give a voice to more incredible stories of our silent veterans. United Airlines Flight 237 cruising at 35,000 feet over Arizona. The Boeing 737 cut through thin air at 550 miles per hour, making the 5-hour journey from San Diego International Airport to Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. Inside, 147 passengers settled into modern air travel's monotony, scrolling phones, watching seatback screens, reading, or staring out windows at endless clouds below. It was 2:15 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon in late September. The sun blazed through starboard windows, casting golden light across rows of blue fabric seats. The cabin smelled of recycled air, coffee from beverage service, and the faint chemical scent of jet fuel that always permeated commercial aircraft. In seat 12A, a window seat in economy, row 12 on the left side, sat Commander Michael Ironfist, Carver. Michael was 43 years old, though the lines around his eyes and grey in his thick beard made him look older. He was built like a middleweight fighter, 6 feet tall, 195 pounds of lean, functional muscle from years carrying heavy gear through hostile territory. His dark brown hair was cut short beneath a tan tactical cap with a subdued American flag patch. He wore a dark grey under-a-rower shirt with a black American flag on the left sleeve, faded jeans, and well-worn Salomon tactical boots. His forearms, visible below rolled-up sleeves, were covered in intricate tattoos, military unit insignias, coordinates, dates, and a trident on his right forearm marking him as a Navy SEAL. But to passengers around him, he was just another guy, maybe former military. The bearing build and haircut gave that away, but nothing special. Just another veteran on a flight home. Michael stared out the window at Arizona desert 35,000 feet below. His expression distant. He wasn't seeing Arizona. He was seeing Ramoni, Fallujah, Mosul, places where he'd spent years, lost brothers, done things that still woke him at 3 a.m. in cold sweats. He'd been medically retired from the Navy SEALs 8 months ago after taking shrapnel in his left leg during a classified Syria operation. Surgeons saved the leg, but his days as an operator were over. No more breaching doors. No more direct action missions. No more leading men into the breach. Now he flew commercial to Washington, D.C. for a Pentagon ceremony. Some award he didn't want for an operation he couldn't talk about in front of people who'd never understand what it cost. He'd rather be invisible. In the seat beside him, 12B, the middle seat, sat a nervous businessman in his 50s, typing frantically on a laptop, occasionally glancing at Michael with the discomfort people feel when sitting next to someone who looks dangerous. In 12C, the aisle seat sat a young woman in her 20s, earbuds in, watching a movie on her iPad, completely oblivious. Michael preferred it that way. Anonymous, forgotten, just another passenger. The flight attendant, a friendly woman in her 40s named Linda, came by with the beverage cart. "Can I get you anything, sir?" "Coffee, black." "Thank you." "Of course," she poured, handed him a small plastic cup. "Heading to DC. For business or pleasure?" "Business," Michael said simply, his tone polite but final, signaling he didn't want conversation. Linda got the message and moved on. Michael sipped his coffee and returned his gaze to the window. The Arizona desert stretched endlessly below. Red rock, sparse vegetation, the occasional highway cutting through wasteland. Beautiful in its harsh way. His phone buzzed. A text from Captain Jake Morrison, his former team leader and closest friend. "You on the flight? Pentagon ceremony is at 1800 tomorrow. Don't be late and don't skip it. Admiral's orders." Michael typed back. "I'm on it. Relax." Jake's response. "You better be. You earned this, brother. Let them honor you." Michael didn't respond. He pocketed the phone and closed his eyes, trying to sleep, trying to quiet the noise in his head. That's when the pilot's voice came over the intercom. The escort. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Rodriguez from the flight deck. The cabin quieted. Passengers looked up from phones and tablets. Something in the pilot's tone, calm, but carrying tension, commanded attention. We've just been informed by air traffic control that we are being escorted by 2 United States Air Force F-35 fighter jets as part of a routine security protocol. This is standard procedure and there is no cause for alarm. Please remain seated with seatbelts fastened. We'll provide updates as necessary. The intercom clicked off. For a moment, silence, then chaos erupted. Fighter jets. Why? Someone shouted. Is there a threat? A woman asked, voice high with panic. Are we being hijacked? Another passenger said, pulling out a phone. Passengers flooded toward windows, pressing faces against small oval panes, phones out, trying to get pictures. Michael stayed seated, but turned to look out his window. And there they were. 2 F-35A Lightning II fighters, the most advanced stealth multi-role fighters in the UDS military, flying in formation off the port side. Maybe 100 yards away. Their angular predatory shapes cut through air with precision. Grey camouflage making them look like sci-fi movie props. Afternoon sun glinted off canopies. Even from this distance, Michael could see pilots and helmets, heads turning slightly as they monitored the airliner. Michael's trained eye catalogued everything. USAF markings, external fuel tanks, no visible weapons, but he knew they carried a 120 Rams and AI-9 Sidewinders internally. This wasn't training. This was a live intercept. Holy shit, the businessman beside him whispered, craning his neck to see. Why are fighter jets escorting us? Michael didn't answer. His mind ran through possibilities. Security protocol could mean anything. Suspicious activity, credible threat, or someone important on board. Or maybe Michael pulled out his phone and opened a secure messaging app, one only military personnel with proper clearances could access. He scrolled through contacts and found Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chen, an Air Force officer he'd worked with on joint operations in Afghanistan. She was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada, not far from where they were flying. He typed, Sarah, you know anything about F-35s escorting United 237 out of San Diego? Response came in seconds. Holy Mike, that's your flight. Yeah, I just got the alert. Stand by. Michael waited, expression calm but mind racing. Around him, passengers were losing composure. Some crying, some filming, some demanding answers from flight attendants who clearly had no more information. Linda tried calming people. Everyone, please return to seats. The captain said, this is routine. There's no danger. Routine? A man shouted. Fighter jets aren't routine. Michael's phone buzzed. Sarah again. Mike, I just talked to the squadron. They were scrambled because of a VIP security protocol. Someone on your flight is flagged as high value. They're not saying who, Angie, but Mike, are you traveling under your real name? Michael typed yes. Why? Because your name is flagged in every military database as Iron Fist. If ATC ran the passenger manifest and saw your name, Mike, they might have scrambled those fighters for you. Michael stared at the message. That didn't make sense. He was retired. Nobody now. Why would his phone ring? Not the civilian line, the encrypted military line he'd kept active for emergencies? He answered. Carver. The voice was clipped. Professional, carrying the unmistakable tone of a fighter pilot. Commander Carver, this is Lieutenant Colonel Brad Viper Hayes, 42nd Test and Evaluation Squadron, Nellis Air Force Base. I'm the lead pilot in your escort. Can you confirm identity? Michael glanced around. The businessman was staring at him now, eyes wide. The young woman in the aisle had taken out her earbuds, listening. Michael kept his voice low. This is Commander Michael Carver, SEAL Team 3, retired. Confirm. A pause then. Iron Fist. Affirm. Another pause. Longer. Then Michael heard controlled or in the pilot's voice. Holy sir. It's an honor. We weren't told you were on this flight. We were just told to escort a commercial aircraft. But if you're on board, sir, this changes things. Changes what? Michael asked. Sir, every pilot in this squadron knows who you are. You're a legend. Battle of Romani, Operation Neptune Spear, the Mosul OP in 2016. We study your tactics at weapon school. You're required reading. Michael's jaw tightened. I'm just a passenger, Colonel, heading to DC for a ceremony I didn't ask for. Understood, sir. But Cersei, can I ask something? Go ahead. The ceremony tomorrow. Is it for the Syria op? The one where you held a position for 6 hours against 200 hostiles so the assault force could extract? Michael didn't answer immediately. That operation was still classified mostly. I can't discuss that, Colonel. Understood, sir. But just so you know, word gets around. We know what you did, and we wanted you to know. You've got the entire 422nd escorting you the rest of the way to DC, not just 2 birds. We are calling in the whole squadron. Michael's eyes widened. That's not necessary. Sir, with all due respect, you don't get to decide that. You're Iron Fist. You're a living legend, and we are damn well going to make sure you get to that ceremony safely. Before Michael could respond, he heard a sound outside. He turned. 4 more F-35s had joined the formation. 2 on each side of the airliner, flying in perfect precision. Passengers who'd been freaking out moments ago were now silent, staring in or at fighter jets surrounding them. Viper's voice came through again. Iron Fist, you've got a 6-ship escort now. And sir, we just radioed ahead. By the time you reach DC airspace, you'll have a full honors flyby waiting. The Air Force doesn't forget its brothers. Michael sat in his seat, throat tight, eyes stinging. He'd spent 8 months trying to disappear, trying to be nobody, and now, thank you, Colonel, Michael said quietly. No, sir. Thank you for everything. The line clicked off. The businessman in 12B turned to Michael, face pale. Who are you? Michael didn't answer. He just stared out the window at 6 fighter jets flying in perfect formation, honoring a man who'd given everything and asked for nothing. Linda approached row 12, eyes wide. Sir, the captain just received a message from air traffic control. They said, the escort is for you. Every head in the cabin turned toward Michael. He said nothing. But the young woman in 12C pulled out her phone and did a quick search. Her eyes went wide. She showed her screen to the businessman. It was a declassified military article. Commander Michael Iron Fist Carver, the SEAL who held Ramoni. The businessman's mouth fell open. You're your Iron Fist. Michael finally looked at him. I'm just a guy trying to get to DI, but word was already spreading through the cabin. Phones out. Searches happening. Within minutes, half the passengers knew they were flying with a living legend. And outside the window, 6 F-35s continued their escort. A silent tribute to a warrior who'd never asked to be remembered. The atmosphere in the cabin had shifted completely. What had been panic was now something else. Awe, curiosity, and a strange reverence. Passengers who'd been demanding answers were now craning their necks to see the man in seat 12A. Phones were out, not filming the fighter jets anymore, but discreetly pointing toward Michael. Michael felt the weight of every eye on him. This was exactly what he'd been trying to avoid for 8 months. He wasn't Iron Fist anymore. That man had died somewhere between Ramoni and Mosul, buried under the weight of decisions made, brothers lost, and missions that cost pieces of his soul he'd never get back. He was just Michael Carver now, retired, broken, trying to figure out how to live in a world that didn't involve kicking down doors at 3 a.m. But the cabin didn't see Michael Carver. They saw Iron Fist, and they wanted answers. A man in his 60s, Bill Crawford, a retired Marine sergeant sitting 3 rows back in 15C, stood up and walked down the aisle. He was stocky, grey-haired, wearing a faded USMC polo shirt and a baseball cap with an eagle, globe, and anchor. His eyes were locked on Michael with an intensity that said he knew exactly who he was looking at. Bill stopped at row 12, his hand gripping the headrest of Michael's seat. Commander Carver. Michael looked up slowly. He recognized the look in the man's eyes, the look of someone who'd served, who understood what the uniform meant. Yes. Bill's voice was thick with emotion. Sergeant Bill Crawford, USMC, retired. I served in Desert Storm. I wanted to shake your hand, sir. What you did in Romani. What you did for all of us, it matters. Michael stood up. Not because he wanted to, but because respect demanded it. He extended his hand. Bill gripped it firmly, his eyes wet. Thank you, Sergeant, Michael said quietly. No, sir. Thank you. My grandson's in the Marines now. Second deployment to Syria. He's alive because guys like you taught us how to fight smart, how to bring our boys home. Michael nodded, his throat tight. Your grandson's a good man. Tell him to stay safe. I will, sir. Bill released his hand, stepped back, and rendered a salute. A formal crisp salute in the middle of a commercial airliner cabin. Michael, by instinct and years of conditioning, returned it. The cabin watched in silence. Bill returned to his seat, his head high, but the floodgates had opened. A young man in his 20s, Ryan Mitchell, sitting in 14B, wearing a college hoodie, stood up next. Sir, I'm sorry to bother you, but is it true? Are you really Iron Fist? The SEAL from Romani. Michael sat back down, his jaw tight. I served in Ramadi. Yes, dude. You're a legend. Ryan's voice was louder than he intended, drawing more attention. I wrote my senior thesis on the Battle of Ramadi at Ukla. You held a building for what was it? 18 hours, while your team extracted wounded. It was 16 hours, Michael corrected quietly. And I wasn't alone. I had my brothers with me, but the report said you were the last man out. You stayed behind to provide cover fire while the reports are classified. Michael interrupted, his tone firm but not harsh. I can't discuss operational details. Ryan nodded quickly, sensing he'd overstepped. Right. Sorry, sir. It's an honor to be on the same flight as you. Michael nodded, hoping that would end it. Ryan returned to his seat, but it didn't end. A woman in her 40s, Jennifer Hollis, sitting in 18F with her teenage son, approached next. Commander Carver, I'm sorry to intrude, but my brother was in the army. He served in Mosul in 2016, he said. He said a SEAL team saved his unit when they were ambushed. He said the team leader callsign was Iron Fist. Was that you? Michael's hands tightened on the armrests. Mosul, 2016. That operation, the one that had earned him a Navy Cross and cost him 2 teammates. I can't confirm specific operations. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. My brother came home because of you. He has 3 kids now. I needed you to know that. Thank you. She didn't wait for a response. She just turned and walked back to her seat, wiping her eyes. Michael stared at the seat back in front of him, his breathing controlled, his emotions locked down tight. This was why he hated recognition, because it brought everything back. Every face, every name, every brother who didn't make it home. Captain. Rodriguez's voice came over the intercom again, cutting through the murmur of conversations. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. I've just received additional information from air traffic control regarding our fighter escort. It appears we have a very distinguished passenger on board. Commander Michael Carver, United States Navy SEALs, retired. Commander Carver is a decorated war hero. And the fighter escort we are receiving is an honors detail arranged by the United States Air Force in recognition of his service. The cabin erupted in applause, spontaneous, thunderous applause that filled the pressurized tube and made Michael want to disappear through the floor. Captain Rodriguez continued, his voice warm. Commander, on behalf of United Airlines and everyone on this flight, thank you for your service. It's an honor to have you aboard. More applause. Some passengers stood. A few whistled. Michael sat frozen in his seat, his face burning, his hands gripping the armrest so tight his knuckles were white. The businessman in 12B leaned over, his earlier discomfort replaced with genuine respect. Sir, I had no idea. I'm sorry if I seemed rude earlier. It's an honor. You weren't rude, Michael said quietly. And I'm just trying to get to DC for the ceremony tomorrow. Michael glanced at him. How do you know about that? The businessman gestured at his laptop. I work for the Department of Defense Contract Analyst. The ceremony tomorrow is for the Syria OP. Right. The one where you held a forward operating position against overwhelming enemy force to allow an extraction. Michael didn't answer. It's okay, sir. I'm cleared. I read the after-action report. What you did. It saved 43 American lives. Special Forces, CIA, contractors. They'd all be dead if you hadn't held that position. Michael's voice was barely audible. 2 of my teammates didn't make it out. Don't call me a hero. The businessman went quiet, understanding he'd touched a wound that wouldn't heal. Michael's encrypted phone buzzed again. He answered, Commander Carver.